That will be imparted again by these 3 trained faculty members who will develop the course content in collaboration with the industry. After having done this, then the student goes back for 4 months of advanced training, and during that phase he works on live projects, he works on hands-on kind of participation for the projects which the industry currently needs. And thereafter, once he comes back, the evaluation will be a joint evaluation. For the academic component, the faculty will evaluate. For the application capability or process exposure component, one of the industry experts will be invited to give his marks allocation for the kind of preparation the student has gone through. And we believe if we can do this, there will be a substantial change in the capability of levels of students. These are the 7 steps. This will be supported. Parallelly, this is the professional development part. It will be supported with an intensive, you can call it soft skills development, you can call it attitudinal development, we call it as winning attitudes development, which will be actually aimed at developing a good human being and a performing executive. So he will be groomed in values, in attitudes, and also he'll be groomed for 12 generic competencies which cut across all executive or managerial functions. These competencies, you can name a few: communication and presentation skills. Just to one of the most basic weaknesses that you face with young graduates, especially after the computer era, the grammar is weak, the presentation is weak, the communication is weak. We can have interpersonal and behavioral skills, how a person behaves at the workplace, with peers, with superiors. We need emotional maturity because this substantially controls the behavior. We need positive and winning attitudes, can-do attitude to perform, the passion to succeed, the passion to achieve the goals that the organization needs, aligning with the goals of the organization, having that kind of a mindset. So we call this as positive and winning attitudes. The right values and the right vision, team working and leadership capabilities or skills, decision making and problem solving skills, negotiation skills, and organizing and planning abilities. Like this, we have identified 12 different competencies which are generic in nature, which are needed in every executive function, in every managerial function that the young person shall be called upon to perform. And we believe with this much we shall have gone to the next higher level. We invite participation from all those who are interested in taking this forward. These valued industry partners shall have the advantage of having the satisfaction, first of all, of contributing towards the development of the youthful resources of this country. Call it enlightened corporate social responsibility, call it your whatever you wish to name it as. You will be creating the right human resources, number one. Number two advantage is those valued industry partners shall have the first choice of selecting out of these well-groomed students whatever numbers they need. We are not putting any limit that you have to place all of them, or you have to pick up 10% of them, or you have to pick up 30% of them. The market conditions are fluctuating, you can't predict that. 1 year you require 100, next year you may not require even 10. So you have the first choice. Let's say people are sitting on the dais. Jindal Steel trains up 50 of our students through this mode. Now, if they need, they can pick up all the 50 in the first go. If they need for 10, they can pick up 10. If they need 5, they can pick up 5. They don't need anyone, let them not pick up even 1. But if these students are trained in steel making or power generation, we shall approach 10 more companies, 20 more companies, who will be willing to hire them. If there's a general slump, these students will have that entrepreneurial ability to start their own startups or to become a supplier or a vendor or some kind of a contractor or whatever he will navigate his way through his life. So this is the model we have arrived at after deliberations and discussions with so many of you working in industry, pooling together this wisdom. This is our conclusion. This white paper gives you the distilled wisdom of all these discussions. And we welcome all of you. We'll be approaching you. We'll now get down to hardcore implementation. We'll approach each one of you individually. We'll approach all other possible people who are interested in this model and take it forward. We invite your participation and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for those valuable suggestions and the possibilities of the way forward. The floor is now open to questions to the panelists, if anybody has some questions.
Am I audible? Right. I do some training for ISEC. ISEC is a world body of youth. The boys are not yet graduates. So when you say building talent pool for future, who are we dealing with? These are the people who don't think of work-life balance. They today think of work-life blend. Even when they're getting trained, his mobile is having Facebook. So he's really not distinguishing, right? So no surprising, one of the organization of which I was national HR head, 95% of them in the older style of work had stress. SOCHM says clearly that high level of stresses for almost all corporate workers by 85%. So if we try to force fit earlier way of working into the new generation, which is Gen Next, you call it, there's nothing called work-life balance. It's called work-life blend. The boundaries, as I said, beyond boundaries, the boundaries are merging. So the youth of future or the talent pool of future will have to be slightly differently handled than what we think. I think that's one point I wanted to make. Second point, I'll agree with Shastriji that there's nothing called industry ready. If academia starts tailoring the talent pool to very specific requirements of, say, 10,000 skills, it will not be possible. Because this is a very large stream of flow of river. We all take our own taps into this. So my question is very specific. Is it really possible for academia to tailor-make talent to the industrial needs? It's not. I would go the Maruti way. You got to pick up your people, build them, and then they will be ready. If McDonald's thinks that it needs people who are fit enough for burgers and burgerology, then they'll create 7, 10 hamburger universities. So the point is, in general, Indian education, which is strong, which is all-encompassing, which is, it has got all-round development at the center of their minds, I'm really not sure you really want to tailor-make. Right? So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
It's a twofold. One is the technical skills, and another is your attitudinal soft skills. As for the technical skills are concerned, the generalized skill set which is needed for the specific industry. If Mr. Sharma was mentioning about the behavioral skills, it is cut across all the industries. So that is the combination of both. It's not, if you are looking at the telecom, we have a specialized in telecom. If a person is looking at power sector, is a different skill requirement is there.
But I think his question is also specifically about whether the industry is right or justified in expecting, absolutely job-ready industry-level people, and whether we're capable of actually rolling them out.
We're not saying that we want somebody who's absolutely tailor-made. I mean, who will fit. We're not talking about that. We're talking about industry-ready. So we're just saying that is he or she is able to understand the corporate environment, is able to blend in immediately and get on with it. So we are not saying that it should be absolutely an Atai Saad Bilkul selling 10 units today or producing 50 units today and writing policies on the same day and invoicing, if he's a finance guy, invoicing and doing everything on the first day. We're not saying all that. There is a big divide, a cultural divide, an environment divide from a college environment, an institute environment to a corporate environment. Is that person able to blend in quickly? Is that person able to adapt quickly?
Let me describe it slightly differently.
I'll take 1 minute.
Abjay, please.
The purpose is set the expectation right at the very basics. Unless and until we set the expectations from the academic perspective and the industry's perspective, things are not going to be materialized. Aspirations, very well taken. But to what extent, that's a question mark. We need to address all these issues.
I guess the word to use is competent rather than ready or not ready.
Yeah.
The individual has to be competent.
Right.
And the intent of being competent is that you reduce the onboarding and the induction or the honeymoon period within an organization, and you reduce the amount of additional training dollars that are being spent on the individual to make the individual competent. As far as your question on tailor making, well, tailor making is about customization. And customization can have various degrees depending upon, so if you're looking at vocational training of a particular kind, which is an electrician, then all you're looking at is that specific skill to be induced. If you're looking at general management, then you're looking at a plethora of skill sets. If you're looking at a customer service representative and the individual doesn't have basic social skills, the individual is not going to be acceptable or competent from that standpoint. So relevance, customization, quality, these are all aspects that need to be addressed right up front. And there couldn't be a standard definition, which is one of the problems that we face, that there is no gold standard. I'm glad to hear.
I think you put it right. I mean, competency is the issue because there are certain things that you can only learn on the job. How much ever training you get outside, there are certain things that you have to learn only in the job.
Shivani, see, I'll just add just a sentence or two. The point is that there are certain, domain agnostic and industry agnostic competence that's required today. See, if we are talking about future, what's happened in the last 10 to 12 years has been the process that has been set is parameters are changing not sequentially anymore, but simultaneously. So one overarching competence, and what Mr. Sharma said that those various competencies that we worked around, I have a word to add actually that the overarching competence which would be very relevant for future would be agility. So if you have whatever it is, in whichever way you are, in whichever stream you are, if you are able to kind of, be nimble-footed, adapting, upgrading, modifying, changing yourself, attitudinally, behaviorally, and functionally, that would be the supreme competence which will make a difference, irrespective of which industry you are at what level you join, what you make of life. The point is that this competence is to be, apart, Mr. Sharma, I just would add to those, the 7 that you have said and the 12 that we talked about earlier, the supreme competence of agility would be the one which will be the most relevant competence of the future. So if we are able to address all the others and agility, and that will be cutting across. So I think that will be a kind of competence which will make people not only industry ready, in life ready. And that is most important.
You are very, very right. We have the can-do attitude which consists of this passion, this energy, this agility, flexibility.
Dispassionately passionate or passionately dispassionate. It has to be, there's no doubt about it. Absolutely. That's important.
One more point of that. I think that we can return the challenge kind of back to the audience because education probably the first mostly affected area where people find out the power of internet. Because the self-education right now is a reality. You can get all the knowledge through the web, not even going to the library. So question would be how you would learn how to handle that. Because if you know how to handle these students, he can obtain all the knowledge through the internet and still being relevant for them. I think as a youngster, we're going to learn from you, tomorrow. It just make a small.
You need to channelize the restlessness, I guess, among the generation. Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Satyan Gupta from ITU APT Foundation of India. I'm a trainer for next generation network technologies. So I'm really impressed with the debate, and the whole debate, of course, is towards the skill development so that the graduates become industry ready, they are accepted, and they face the interviews with confidence and competency. That is there. But where are the enough jobs actually? That is the issue here. Like he was talking about 500 million to be trained by 2025. So, but I feel there are not so many jobs to match these figures. Yes, if we do what we are talking, they will get the job. That one objective will be met. But why not to go one step ahead and also create the jobs or make these graduates competent enough so that they create the job, or I'm hinting at entrepreneurship actually. Instead of just creating the industry-ready graduates, you should also be thinking of creating the entrepreneurs. So is there any move in that direction? That is what I just wanted to know.
to take that question.
You know, if we will not create those 500 million skills which we are talking about, just imagine in next 10 years what you will be doing. You will be waiting for 1 month or 2 months to get your car serviced. You will not have service engineers available. There are a lot of forecasting which has gone beyond this, creating this figure out for 2020 and 2025, wherein we see a lot of skill gap as of today and as of tomorrow. Wherein electricians, plumbers, your service engineers, your technical guys will not be available. Everybody will be on the road, will be virtually an MBA or an high-class engineer or a doctorate. Do we really need all of them? So there is a lot of debate which is going in, and this 500 million job which we are talking about creating is basically into the retail sector, into the service sector, into the telecom sector, your technicians, your lot of other vocational trainings which has to be incorporated, where we are also talking about bringing the SMEs into the picture, wherein each SME can also contribute in training these kind of skills, and they can hire the freshers, they can hire the 10th pass or 10 plus 2s, and then train them, and then create that kind of skill ready nation. This will become our national problem if we will not forecast it. That is why government has set up the NSS, this National Skill Development Corporation, which has been now being converting into the National Skill Development Authority, and a lot of consultants and Manipal and some London universities and all are involved in bringing that learning skill. So that is the step which we have to take. That is why we have been talking about all this.
And what's important is not only numbers, 500, it's the quality. What is
quality
important? Yeah, there is a dimension. Big is not necessarily better. Bigger and better together have to be created. That's the talent pool you need to create. So the right kind of talent and the right number of talent. That's important together. Otherwise, it won't make sense. And therefore, the wholesale changes have to be made comprehensively, you know.
Right. I hope that's answered. Time for another one or two questions.
Good evening, gentlemen. Myself, Anshul Saxena, part of Jubilant Life Sciences Group. I manage HR operations for a research center, and from past 3 years have been very much leading my organization's industry academia initiatives. My question to Mr. Shastri is, number one, when we're talking about industry ready, I completely agree with the debate and the lot of information that has been passed across the panelists here sitting on our dais, that when we're talking about industry ready, we're not talking about a person coming just in the office and producing a number of billions of dollars or selling number of units there. What are you talking about? The basic organizational level skill that is required, basic technical or functional skill that's required, a basic knowledge to know that what is to be done. And second is the attitude. And when you're talking about attitude, it's more of setting the expectation right. The concern that I have been raising to most of the institutes which I have been dealing, and I would not name them, a couple of them are very high reputed universities, and the concerns are that any role, any course that is being sold to the students are